The following podcast is by Dr. Shawn Weiss, President of Senior Health and Wellness Group on the Answers for Elders Radio Network. And welcome back, everyone, to the Answers for Elders Podcast Network with Dr. Shawn Weiss from the Senior Health and Wellness Network. And Shawn, I'm so glad that we are talking about these issues that we need to really start addressing now that it's the fall and we're moving into the winter season. I can't believe how fast this year has flown by. And but here we are. Summer's over. I know with my time in, I'm a rose gardener and I've got rose hips all over my rose bushes. And here I am going, I love the rose hips. I don't want to cut them off, but they're way too tall. I know they're going to fall over. They're going to make a mess. They're going to get in my way. So I have to do the responsible thing. But I think a lot of us don't think about internal and external. And we also don't think about, what is our environment doing and how can we be adequately prepared? Because I'm sure in the wintertime with ice and snow and being cold, there's a lot of factors now that can affect our seniors. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you are thinking about right now, winter coming up, it's time to prepare now. Is it your own home or is it your parents' home? Is it your grandparents' home? Let's start preparing now before the cold and the snow and the ice come. And you're exactly right. You tend to neglect the outside of the house, which causes a lot of issues for fall risk. So we start out the process. There's lots of checklists, and being in the home health world, that's the first thing, when I'm coming to a person's home for the first time, I'm observing the outside of the home. I'm observing the entryways. Is it safe? Do we need to make recommendations? But these are certainly things that you can do ahead of time. Even if you don't have a home health provider to come in and let you know. So, the first thing on the outside is we're looking at lighting and we're looking at clearing the pathways. Just like you said, if you are a gardener or your shrubbery or your grasses need to be cut back, because as soon as the snow falls, those things are going to come down onto your pathway, maybe near your steps. Covering areas makes it a huge tripping hazard. So lighting and clearing the pathway of debris. And maybe you can hire that out if you're not able to do it yourself. You can have a grandson or a neighbor prepare you now and not wait until the weather turns.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit. I'm sure you probably have a checklist for winter. Knowing you.
Yeah, we have all kinds of things that we go through on the checklist when we're doing home safety assessments, where we're looking inside the home and outside the home. So when we're looking for winter safety, again, anything that's going to be a tripping hazard on the outside of the home, and we just talked about lighting and clearing the pathways. We want to make sure shovels and things of that nature, if you're living in a part of the country where you're going to get some snow and ice, that those are placed near the door and ready to go. You don't necessarily want to have to go somewhere that's slippery to go retrieve your shovel.
Good point.
You want to have everything, your brooms and your shovels, readily by the door. So that's something that we advise our patients to do. You also want to look at if you're having issues getting in and out of the house now. Maybe you didn't last winter, but maybe this winter you do. Let's look at installing handrails, things that'll make things a little bit more sturdy. Or if you have handrails, let's make sure they are secure. Has anything happened in the last year, whether it's a wind or a storm, or have they just been there for a number of years and you need to check for sturdiness of those, especially if you have a loved one that maybe is living with you now, or maybe grandma's coming to stay and they need to be able to access the home. And you certainly want to make sure those handrails are secure so that their safety is not affected. Inside the home, we're looking at having rugs that can handle the moisture when you come into the house, so that your shoes are not slippery. So that if you're at a fall risk, you're not going to take your first steps onto your wood or your tile floor and have a tripping hazard.
When you say rugs that are, that will absorb moisture, what type of rug, like is like a microfiber or a
you could have two things. You could have the nice, sturdy, heavy kind of rubber rugs that kind of take the moisture down off the top, or they make those microfiber type rugs that just kind of are like wicks, they suck up the moisture, so that when you're stepping out from the outside and maybe it's snowy,
Sure.
you're trying to get that moisture off of the bottom of your shoes, or making sure you're removing your shoes before you start stepping. If you don't have a carpet in your home, if you have a wood floor, if you have a tile floor. So definitely looking at that.
Well, and I think too, when you say that, is to make sure that those rugs are hosed off and cleaned. If it's outside in a patio or something like that, if they have grime on them and stuff like that, that's not going to help you much. So I know we have a very wet Pacific Northwest.
You do, yes.
So
and we get snow here in Ohio, but
you get snow, like you get. We get rain.
Yes.
But I think one of the things that we deal with is a lot of the algae and a lot of the stuff off the roof falls,
mold and things of that nature.
Great,
moss,
storm drains, things like that. So making sure that when, not only that it's a proper type of rug, but that it's cleared off, and and that's maybe once every week and during the winter, is to make sure that rug is cleaned off, and I always just take mine and hang them up and then vacuum them after they dry, because that gets up all the stuff. But again, it really depends on, what your climate is, for sure.
It definitely depends on what part of the country, the people that are down, in the Southwest are like, what's she talking about? It's not going to get below 60 degrees, right?
And we're talking about
the lucky ones.
We're in the north hemisphere here of the so both of us.
I know. Certain parts of the country, they already got the snow. We're already behind in telling them these things, right?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Really important, really important things. And there's something else we think about, especially when we're looking at the residents that we take care of in the home health setting, but it certainly can apply to your grandparents or your parents. Is, let's say you're living alone, you're going out to get the mail, it's winter, you have the issues with the wet surfaces, and you are at a fall risk. Now's the time to get a life alert type of system. I just got one from my mom, just so I felt good about her. If she had to go outside and something happened, she's going to be able to call the emergency, and they will call and make sure she's okay. So anytime you're in that type of weather situation and you are alone and you already know that you're at a risk for falls, and you feel like you must go outside and you can't wait for somebody to get there, because that would be the first thing. Let's just plan this ahead, right? But if you do need to go out, it's really great to have some type of life alert system. There are all kinds of really great ones on the market. They're very inexpensive. It really could help prevent something terrible from happening.
So we've talked about the outside and winter safety, but also, our bodies change in a year. We have, some of us are warmer or colder from one year to the next. How do you address those types of issues?
Well, we're looking at, we always talk about hydration and things like that in the summer, but it's even more so, important in the winter time. Staying hydrated. Our activity levels tend to go down in the winter. We're not going outside as much. We're not taking the walks. So exercising on a daily basis, but exercising in a safe way. So there's plenty of really great seated exercise programs. I'm ready to post my winter safety seated exercise list on the website. So this time of year is when I do that, so that you can safely keep your strength up, keep your endurance up, so that you're not getting weak when, especially if you think about the last year, with people being in quarantine or people being in isolation or just not going out as much. You have that already happening. So now here comes winter, when you're probably maybe not at your strongest to start with.
Right.
And now here comes the weather changes and you're not going out. You don't want to, cause a greater problem than maybe you already have. So starting a seated program it's safe. It's easy to do on a daily basis. You can do them with each other. We have husbands and wives do them together. We give them the sheets, or maybe, your daughter or son's going to come over and make sure they're supervising. So eating properly, the right nutrients, hydration, and then making sure you're keeping up with your exercises. Really, really important this time of year. And it's not too late to start now.
Yeah. And I think sometimes hydration is harder to get somebody to drink water during the winter months, right? Because so, you could be a little bit creative and do like an herbal tea or something like that. Is that an option?
Right. Anything that's not, we don't promote anything that's caffeinated if we have somebody who definitely has hydration issues, but teas are great. Herbal teas are great. we like to have families go get the big, maybe it's a Yeti cup, or maybe it's something that has a handle that's maybe a 28 to 32 ounce cup. And we're like, okay, at least 3 of those a day. So it's
Wow.
very easy to manage. It's very, I'm going to fill this up in the morning. I can keep it with me, and I can monitor how much I'm drinking. Because if you're, that's an easy way to do it, so that you fill it up in the morning, and then after lunch, you should be ready to fill it up again. And that way, you're tracking things appropriately. And it really does work. It's been really helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what about clothing for the winter?
I'm always cold. So in the winter, I want to bundle
Because you're
up.
very slim. I'm
Well,
never.
no, I don't know about that anymore. I hit 15 and it all went downhill. But what we see, especially in our seniors, is that they want to just, because they're cold, right? Their circulation, we have issues with that. They really are bundled up. So you really want to make sure you're not having clothing that's too bulky, that might get caught on something. If you go outside, is it going to catch on a limb? Is it not just inside, but outside? So making sure your clothing is not too big and bulky. Is it hanging over your hands? Is it going to create more of a hazard, even though it's keeping you warm? First thing to look at. The second thing is making sure you have shoes that have good tread.
Good point.
You want something that's, not the super heavy shoes, especially if you are at a fall risk, but look at the bottoms of your shoes. We're not going to be doing the flats or the sandals or anything like that. They need to have a grip. So changing your shoes for this time of year is really critical.
Well, and I think also there's a lot of great manufacturers out there that make shoes with arch supports and an orthopedic type support, which, believe it or not, I wear because of, it's just safer, and it's more practical for every day. And when you're in and out and going places, I think, especially as a senior, you're not as spry as you used to be. You know what I'm saying?
And companies like Skechers, even, they make a wonderful non-skid type of tennis shoe. You can find them on the website. You can find them in the stores. They're relatively inexpensive. And of course, diabetics are already kind of wear nice, secure shoes too. They know how it works, but do not take that for granted in terms of fall prevention.
Well, and I think the other thing that, there's a million, I wear Bionics, which I think is even a step above Skechers. But again, it's the ability, and nice thing about it is, everyone, I will say, orthopedic shoes used to be uglier than anything. They're not anymore.
They're not. You can get fat. They're fashionable.
Amazing shoes. And I've got some really fun, boots that are snakeskin that are really kind of fun. And they're orthopedic. It's amazing what you can get out there. So those again, for our listeners, spend the extra dollars to get good supporting shoes, I think, is really important. That will hold your foot in the right position. And that can often mean an arch support or, proper cushioning. So, because some people will have heel pain, and those types of things can also affect your walking. Is that not correct?
Absolutely. If you don't have the right support, if you're the one that's wearing flat sandals or going barefoot all the time, and you have orthopedic issues, or you have pain, just changing the type of shoe you're wearing, where you're getting more support up the chain, can greatly reduce your pain, and then thus greatly reduce your risk for falling.
So everyone, we're going to keep talking about all of these things. And right now we're going to move on to, what is home health? How can you help your loved one move around? And specifically, what does this all mean, and who pays for it? Shawn will be right back right after this. We would like to thank you for listening to this podcast by Dr. Shawn Weiss, CEO of Senior Health and Wellness Group, focusing on wellness and prevention strategies for seniors. As a fall prevention specialist, Dr. Weiss provides family support and education to keep your loved ones safe. You can learn more by visiting her website at www.seniorhealthandwellness.org.